And we're joined this evening by our regular contributor, political analyst Jason J. Smart, to discuss the Biden impeachment inquiry process that is currently underway.
Jason, a pleasure to see you as always. Now let's start off quickly. Do they have any compelling evidence that could justify an impeachment?
No, there's no justification for an impeachment. The reality is that this is dead on arrival. This is just political showmanship. The Republican leadership wishes to weaken Biden going into the presidential elections. At the same time, it's to fend off within the Republican Party the hardliners, namely the Trump segment of the party, and to appease them by giving them this red meat. So they remain complicit and they don't create problems before the elections.
Well, just one additional question, because I've heard them say that the reason that they don't have the evidence is because they lack the subpoenas and the warrants necessary to get that evidence, and that it's a lack of political will that's causing them to not be able to go forward with this impeachment. What would you say to that?
I would probably argue that's not the case. I mean, yes, of course, if they had subpoena power, it would allow them to do a lot more investigating. But the fact of the matter is, this was something that was already talked about more than a year ago, 2 years ago, that they would probably do this before the elections, specifically as a means of increasing the Republicans' chances of winning. Now, that does bring up another question. If the general public, how they will feel about this, is this something that they will feel is almost an abuse of power? Well, in this specific case, I don't think they will. The problem is that Joe Biden's support is incredibly low. Both those who support him and those who are against him, it's about even numbers to Donald Trump. There's a very low percentage of Americans who say they would vote for him. It's only about 43%, which is about the same number that Donald Trump has. So both candidates, both presumptive candidates, we don't know who the Republicans will choose, but it's most likely Trump. Both candidates are very unpopular, and so they're doing everything they can to lower the popularity of the other candidate as much as they can before the elections.
But these allegations against Joe Biden, or shall we say the wider Biden family, and specifically Hunter Biden, have been around for quite a while. So tell us a little bit more about Burisma Holdings and the activities surrounding that, and what shadow that puts on the U.S. involvement in Ukraine.
So that is actually a really good question. And it's, I think, the thing that we should all be the most concerned about is, what are the secondary consequences of this? And Burisma Energy, a company that was located in Kyiv, Ukraine, tied to a number of businessmen, some of which had sort of nefarious backgrounds, had hired Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, about 7 years ago to work with them. Hunter Biden has no background in the energy industry. He's not an expert. There's no real justification for him getting this job, other than the fact that Joe Biden back then, as vice president, was often traveling to Kyiv. And there was allegations that he was essentially Hunter Biden was hired in order to curry favor with his father. And sure enough, back in that period of time, there was a prosecutor general in Ukraine named Shocking, who, upon the insistence of Joe Biden, was fired by Ukraine. Well, that very same prosecutor had launched an investigation into Burisma Energy. So the accusation was that Joe Biden had used his official office, that is the office of the vice president, to pressure the Ukrainians in order to fire this prosecutor to protect his son's business interests. Over 60% of Americans believe that at a minimum what Joe Biden engaged in was unethical. 45% or so believe what he did was illegal. The reality of the matter is that it's been a number of years since then, and if there had been something significant, more than likely, it would have been investigated already. It would appear that this is just a political sideshow to detract from Biden. The problem being that, once again, Ukraine is giving the news in the context of impeaching a president. The first impeachment of Donald Trump was also related to Ukraine, specifically giving arms to Ukraine in exchange for information about, of all things, Burisma Energy and its relationship to Joe Biden. So it would appear that there is going to be a scandal that is not going to be helpful to support for Ukraine.
Then moving on from Ukraine, can you tell us a little bit more about the Biden's business activities in China?
Sure. Joe Biden's son also had business activities in China. And there is accusations that, in fact, his son traveled with him on official business trips to China while he was pushing for deals that were in the billions of dollars, significant deals. And so, once again, a majority of Americans believe that Joe Biden was aware of what his son was doing and that he was perhaps even colluding with him. The problem with that is obviously that is illegal. That would be, using his influence from his job to persuade business interest in other countries. It would appear, though, at the same time, that Joe Biden will be able to get out of this if he is just able to keep his head down, not make a lot of notice about this, and keep talking about things that citizens care more about, such as the economy. He should be able to survive this scandal.
All right. Well, so just a final question. So you do agree that there has been some wrongdoing, particularly on the Hunter Biden side, but at the same time, there is no evidence of wrongdoing on Joe Biden's side. Is that the way we should understand this?
That's correct. I think everybody would agree that Hunter Biden was involved in sort of suspicious things. And this month, he's been charged with crimes regarding guns. So the guy is a little bit of a murky background. That being said, there is absolutely no evidence that he colluded with his father. And his father has said that he's never once discussed the business interest of his son. So if that's the case, it is quite possible that Biden is being wrongly accused by the Republicans.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to be looking into this further. We'll be watching this as it happens. But thanks very much for the detailed analysis. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end.